Yo, good evening. Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Live Before Lock, the final. This is truly the final showdown slate, showdown show of the year. It's kind of sad to think about, man. Like, we do a lot of these. All in all, given the Mondays, the Thursday slates, you get 17 weeks of those. You get one in wild card weekend. I mean, this is it. And then time will go fast. We'll be back before we know it doing this once again, talking like Jets Browns on Thursday because one of those teams drafted a quarterback that the league thinks is going to be good, and then the games are garbage. But that doesn't matter because we like it, and it gives us something to talk about. But that's all right. Final one, Texans, Steelers. Spags, dude, it's been a good postseason so far, man. It's been really, really good.
Oh yeah, great games this weekend. I mean, no matter what side you're on, I know Lofty, I'm sure people were tilting already for you in the live before lock yesterday about how sad you would be with the Eagles gone. I could feel it through the screen right now. It was good games. Besides that, it was fun, all competitive games. And, for Philadelphia, now you get a new offensive coordinator, which I think might be the greater gift of all in winning one game and having to keep doing that.
I said that yesterday. I said the silver lining. I had a bunch of people over here watching the game. I was like, the silver lining is if they lose, Patullo's gone. It's a repeat of 2023. You go to the Super Bowl, you lose your coordinators, you hire in-house, they stink, and then you bring in some guys that are proven. Like, you could talk about the line, you could talk about Hurts, you could talk about A.J. Brown, and to some extent they all had an impact and, not having a great season, Saquon Barkley. But you can't tell me that, like, the loss of Kellen Moore wasn't super noticeable. Go look at Detroit. What's got Ben Johnson? I mean, Aaron Glenn, hard to say, but Ben Johnson, you have these two teams with an embarrassment of riches on offense, and they can't move the football. Like, how are you not able to move the ball with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jamison Williams, and for a lot of the season, Sam Laporta? You know what I mean? It's just same with the Eagles. It doesn't make sense. There's clearly one thing that makes sense, and those were two very good offensive coordinators.
Yeah, I'm sure you saw the reports too that it's like the Eagles might be looking for an experienced or proven track record offensive coordinator.
Oh, wow. What a novel concept.
I know it's insane that after you won a Super Bowl with Kellen Moore and also Vic Fangio on the other side, obviously he's still hanging around, but like it's one of those situations where you had the blueprint, you went away from it again, and now they'll have to if they get McDaniels, I'm going to be really annoyed by that. But if
I would love it,
somebody else good, it's fine.
As someone who can't stand Mike McDaniel, that is me. I think he is the goofiest dude in the world. I don't like when he speaks in riddles and you're supposed to crack the code of what he's saying, which is really just word salad. None of it. I don't like, there's a million things that you guys already know. I'm not a fan of Mike McDaniel. Give me Mike McDaniel as the offensive coordinator in Philly all day long. Are you kidding me? Like, I would take that any day of the week. So I'm willing to put all of that to the side. I think he'd be great with this team. There's a lot of guys out there, but a lot of them are going to get head coaching jobs anyway. That's the thing. I'm not like Stefanski. He'll have a head coaching job, right? McDaniel probably gets offered a bunch of head coaching jobs.
You might get Atlanta because that interview, I saw that and I was like, oh, that's perfect. Give him Bijan, Achan treatment, get Drake London on the Tyreek Hill schedule. They're not the same guy, but that would be a lot of fun. I'm actually rooting for that one now.
Yeah, we got and a quarterback who isn't suffering from brain damage.
Yeah, that could help too. I mean, Kirk Cousins wasn't awful at the end of last year, and I think he's gonna have one more shot at it. But I think what they might do is bring Cousins back, bring in some other QB. It's fun to talk about this stuff. We have an actual game in front of us. This is how bad tonight's game is, though. It's a wild card playoff game, 38 implied points. I'd rather talk about Mike McDaniel going anywhere else.
Look, it's still football, okay? It's still football. But yes, we do. Let's dive into it. Happy to have you guys here. If you don't mind, take a second, atone for your sins this fine evening. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Texans, Steelers. Yeah, really low total for any game. Not just a playoff game, but for any game. And look, a lot of this does have to do with the fact that the Texans have a stellar defense. Pittsburgh with a healthy J.J. Watt can wreak havoc on the line. We know that. Matter of fact, we saw a lot of that play out against Lamar Jackson. Had Lamar not escaped pressure on 2 times, magician style, and thrown that one deep downfield to Zay Flowers, and the other one I forget what it was, but was it Devontae Walker or something?
Okay. Whenever you don't want somebody to score, it's been Devontae Walker this year, has been the case for the Ravens.
But like some crazy Houdini like escape acts from Lamar. Stroud can run, he can take off, and he will. Like, he's an opportunistic runner. He'll take advantage of that once in a while, but not like Lamar. And I think that the defensive line for both of these teams, I think that could be the story of the game, Spags.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, to some respect, I think the story of the game to me is just how much people are going to, go to Aaron Rodgers, how much they're going to go to this Pittsburgh passing attack. Because, my initial read on slate is usually like, okay, we look at the data, what's take you make off that? You look at the spread, what's the take you make off that? Projections, what's take you make off that? All the takes you would make are just Texans dominant builds. I mean, your cash game lineup with industry projections, Texans 5-1 with Schultz captain is what I was seeing this afternoon. So like everybody assumes, and I think they're going to assume too, having seen Rodgers this year, having seen the Texans defense this year, that, they're just going to kick Pittsburgh's ass. But, Rodgers has been a guy in this league for a while. That sounds like we're doing real talking head mode right away. He's a guy in this league and he's been doing it for
any more cliches?
Yeah. He's a gamer. He's going to show up. But in reality, like, the variance of the situation, I think you want to be more intrigued by Pittsburgh. I also think there's going to be a big assumption on the slate that Gainwell is now going to be, the lead back, or at least the one that's going to earn that workload. But, last game, that do or die spot versus, the Ravens that Lofty was talking about, it was initially drive for Jalen Warren, drive for Gainwell, drive for Warren, drive for Gainwell, drive for Warren. Then Gainwell started getting worked in more. Gainwell took over, ended up finishing with, I think, 22 more snaps than Warren did. So I know there's some assumptions people will make on the slate today that are hopefully the way that you can get unique. But I just think if you don't play 5 Texans, that's probably going to be their best way to get unique.
One of the things I mentioned to Greg this morning was that the Jalen Warren captain ownership being so much lower than Gainwell to me is wild. Like, I understand Gainwell plays more snaps, he runs more routes, but Warren touched the ball 19 times on 28 snaps last week. That's a lot. That's why I hate. Like, I'm perfectly happy using snap counts as long as we're adding context to it. If you're telling me that when Jalen Warren's out there, I mean, I bet the over on receiving yards today because my hope is that they will use him. And I think you make a great point. We also talked about on the strategy show today too that a guy like DK Metcalf, a lot of people I think are probably going to be, a little averse to getting there. He's still getting 10% ownership at captain, which is not nothing. It's what, 4th highest, but going up against guys like Derek Stingley, against a very good secondary, a good pass rush, knowing that Aaron Rodgers in a game like this has a 204.5 yard passing prop, which is kind of wild in a spot like this. I do think there are some angles, Spags, that you mentioned that we could probably get to. To me, Jalen Warren being one of them, just because, well, one, I think he's actually good. He's clearly a better runner than Gainwell. I don't think that's up for debate. Gainwell's been great in the passing game, but Warren can get worked in. What do you have, 5 targets last game? I think he had 5 targets last game. It's not that I think Warren is a better overall play than Gainwell without ownership factored in. But really, if he's sub 5% at captain, I'll take some Jalen Warren all day long and get over the field there.
Yeah, I'm going to make a belabored point here, which I did on my Splash Play stream this morning, so I apologize for anybody that does watch both, but I think it's worth it. So literally in every stat that I track for a running back, Jalen Warren is better than Gainwell this year. And I know it's like, people might think that's crazy because Gainwell keeps getting the work and has had the big spike weeks lately and does seem like he's meaningfully taking a work away, every week lately. But it is a situation where EPA-wise, Warren, 0.05 EPA per rush compared to Gainwell, flat 0 EPA per rush, which is fine because rushing is inherently less efficient, but it's still, Warren better. Per target, 0.2 EPA for Warren, 0.07 for Gainwell. Intended touch rate, so how many touches they get per snap. Like you mentioned, Warren got 52% intended touch rate. Gainwell, 41% this year. Warren, 21% avoided tackle rate in the run game. Gainwell, 16%. The targets are better for Gainwell. He gets 5.3 a game. Warren gets 2.8. But then still, per route run, it's Warren by a little bit, 29.4% compared to 28. He avoids more tackles. Warren does 63% avoided tackle rate in the pass game versus 16% for Gainwell. Red zone, 2.8 a game for Warren, 2.5 for Gainwell. I just think it's a bit of a fallacy, and I think it's one of those things where I get why Gainwell might project better, both on Stokastic and elsewhere. But I think just the fact if you flip those two and get more Warren, I just think that's the way. You still get some Gainwell, you're still fine, but just don't go nuts on Gainwell because hot hand backfield. It's like a classic hot hand backfield.
That's how I feel too. Where are you at on Rodgers then?
I think he's not a great play. I mean, I get why, he's coming up a little bit. I think it's more likely, and I think this is where I'm probably going to be pretty hand in hand with the field. I think it's probably likely that, Rodgers might get outproduced by his receivers if he has even a decent day, because the PPR points, a touchdown, all of that can flow there. But I do think that Rodgers, I'm not buying that he'll be 36% owned or so, in the flex at least, and a little bit less than some other guys at captain, about 5% or so of the numbers I saw before the show. I'll update in a moment. Before Rodgers, I think playing him, I'm just not buying he'll be that owned. So I think he's an awful play. I think he should get gobbled up by the Texans, but just knowing game theory and knowing that I think everybody's going to feel that way, I kind of want to make sure to be with the field. As of the run I had before the show, I was right with the field in the flex, a little bit above it at captain. It's just, I just don't imagine people want to play him as much as 40%. I don't think they're going to think he's a good play. And I think they'll rather play Metcalf, Friermuth, running backs, all that.
Yeah. Well, Friermuth's another one, right? I mean, it's strange to me that they refuse to use him as much as I believe they should. I think Friermuth's pretty good as far as the ability to make big plays downfield on a team that lacks that. And when you're relying on guys like MVS and Calvin Austin, I know they get Metcalf back today and he was absent for 2 games with the suspension. So that all makes sense. But Friermuth makes big plays, Spags, when given the opportunity. And he's out snapping Jonnu Smith significantly since Darnell Washington went down. Now, again, only out targeting him 10-7, but running a whole lot more routes than Jonnu Smith recently. And they will use both of those guys in the red zone. Jonnu Smith getting a handoff, I think, like a rushing touchdown last week or something, or the week before. So they're both there. But Friermuth is just always one of those guys that has the big play upside. I want some of him. I don't want to go overboard though, because they've had every opportunity to use him. Even last week, right? Like last week's probably a pretty good example of this. It's a win or go home game. They go to Friermuth late in the game and he ends up having huge plays to put them in. Like, what do you have, a 35-yard or a 32-yard reception late when they finally started looking towards him? But prior to that, man, Adam Thielen on the day out-targeted Pat Friermuth. Marquez Valdes-Scantling out-targeted Friermuth. So I just don't know how often they actually want to go to him, even though I think he's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you. I mean, I do think one thing that stands out in this matchup is that Houston, despite being good against every facet, basically, like the only thing they don't have a minus CPA on is downfield throws. Based upon my splits, where they cover short throws well. They're good in man, they're good in zone, they're good when getting pressure, they're good when not getting pressure. But against zone, or rather with the Texans playing zone, they're playing at a 60% rate. So for Friermuth, he has put up 2 yards per out run, a 0.76 EPA per target, versus zone, for comparison's sake, 0.9 yards per out run and a 0.26 EPA versus man. So for Friermuth, I think the splits make a lot of sense here to go his way more. And the stuff you mentioned, like Darnell Washington broke his arm, which, it really has meaningfully affected this rotation. Friermuth getting over 50 snaps last week, Jonnu Smith at 33. That's one of those things where Friermuth is out there a lot. And I think the matchup should fit him well. And frankly, if you do think DK Metcalf, either if he succeeds, Friermuth can still get there. If he fails and gets completely shut down by Stingley / the defense writ large, Friermuth in the zone situation, just a big tight end, a body you can get open into space and, can also run with it a little bit after the catch. I think for him, going to Friermuth makes a lot of sense to me. So I actually boosted him. He's one of a couple guys I boosted on the slate on the Stokastic Sims. I feel good about Friermuth today, even though, I'm with you. Like, he doesn't get as many targets as he should, but in this spot, I think he may have to.
Look, I feel the same way, that this would be the spot to try and exploit. It's just, I feel that way with Pittsburgh a lot, and then they do the opposite of what I would think they would do. But also Arthur Smith, right?
That's true. Mr. 4D chess, Arthur Smith.
Yeah. You want to talk about, I'm sorry, I'm still getting over a bit of a cold here. I feel fine, but it's in the voice, in case anyone mentions it.
It's all the crying over the Eagles, right? Your Ducks are all beaten up.
The only thing I was mad at myself about was thinking maybe they fixed this offense. But then you realize, no, they didn't fix shit. They're still bad. But no, I'm fine. Honestly, I did doom scroll for actually, it's not even doom scrolling. It's pleasure scrolling just under Patullo and Sirianni just to see people with the same mind. That'll make you feel better. if there's ever an instance where your team has a brutal loss or something like that, I used to only listen to the radio, like sports radio, after the Eagles lost. I never wanted to listen after they won because who cares? You want people to commiserate with, right? It's true.
It's such classic East Coast sports fan behavior, though. Like that's New York, that's Philly, that's Boston. I mean, those three in particular. It's also, I think, Chicago to some respect as well. But like those cities where anywhere it gets cold, it's like they want the misery in the sports teams a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, it's just it's part of what it is, man. So yeah, you got to go and see what other people are saying. It'll make you feel so much better, and then you're fine. But anyway, you want to get cliche here? You hit the cliches earlier. I'll hit the kind of cliche, like surface level thought when it comes to a game like this, but I have to mention it anyway because I want to know where you're at. Obviously, you go, well, they get the Texans get great pressure. Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, these guys, I mean, just fantastic. Does Rodgers have to get the ball out early? Is that what's going to happen? Do I think it's possible? Yeah, I absolutely do. They already like to target the running backs in the passing game to begin with, right? Like if you look at their target shares, they're pretty hefty for any team, particularly Gainwell. But how would you approach this offensively? Like if you had to look at this game, how would you think it plays out offensively for the Steelers, given their personnel and given what they're going up against?
I mean, I would think you got to get check down intermediate throws. It's tough because like I don't know that he'll have the time to get Metcalf open downfield. And Metcalf, not enough in routes, I think, in his usage to feel awesome about his potential in the spots. Like I'm still playing Metcalf with the field, but I do think, if I were going to really just use the game worry brain for me, he'd be the first guy to be the most concerned about. But I would think, to me, working tight end more, trying to get it to running backs. It's something where on yesterday's Live Before Lock, I made the full-throated case for Christian McCaffrey in the pass game. And really a spot where I thought that was the Eagles' weak spot. They're good against a lot of things, not good against defending the RB targets. Houston really does shut down RBs well, like a negative 0.24 EPA to running backs targeted is one of the best marks in football. So they're getting there. They're keeping the EPA low, which means they're basically getting to the guy before, he's going to make anything valuable happen. It worries me, but I just don't know how else they can move the ball. And I don't want to play into the idea that I think the projections are giving you across everywhere that it's just like Pittsburgh's barely going to move the ball. You're getting a lot of 5-1s with like a Gainwell bring back, a Calvin Austin bring back, which just sort of say like, there's a chance that nobody from Pittsburgh scores any points. I just tend to think, like we've talked about all year long in these showdowns, when everybody's playing defense, everybody's playing kick, everybody's playing the down total game, I think you're better off playing a little bit more loosely, playing the hope that there is production. But just like, worrying about analytics as I always do, I don't see a real weak spot. The only thing that's weak is like Houston's shockingly bad in the red zone, defending the pass, 0.1 EPA in the red zone there for a pass defense is like bad for anybody, but really bad for a team like Houston you think is good. And sometimes that kind of portends an underlying weakness that we haven't seen yet. But do I trust that enough to like start loading up on Rodgers like shootout builds? Maybe not quite so much.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this much. I don't know if I want to load up on Rodgers shootout builds, but also, did you predict when you were talking about McCaffrey targets that Juwan Jennings would be the one throwing him the touchdown?
No, that part didn't matter. It was just that RB targets are more efficient versus the Eagles, and I was correct. He caught 2 touchdowns, so EPA worked.
By the way, one of those clear hold on the Niners, clear hold on. I think it was Trent Williams, but hey, what are you gonna do? Eagles deserve to lose that game. R. Schindler, look at this. I just tweeted at you both, but tied for first last night with Rich Green for the flea flicker for $35,000. Glad he could share the money with me. Thanks for everything. Hell yeah, dude. That is absolutely awesome. Do you know R. Schindler, by the way? Were you rocking the Stokastic avatar? Yes, you were. Love to see it. Damn, first and second. So a two-way chop in the flea flicker, 2 Stokastic avatars, $35,000 each, Spags. That's awesome.
It's nice to see. It's good. Schindler's List paid off yesterday. It's a list of players. That's what it was.
Yeah. Damn, you should have said it that way the first time. It would have been perfect.
I was trying to workshop in my head as you were talking. I couldn't get there, so just said the thing.
Schindler's List of players was right. Like the delivery, that was good. Do you know who Rich Green is, Ryan? He does him and Jason Wagner do our NFL projections. Rich Green isn't just a random sub. Rich Green does our NFL and NBA projections. So, yeah, you thank Rich for that one too. But congrats, that's incredible, man. $35,000. Love to see that. Absolutely love to see it. And you know what? We'll keep moving on to this one. Thielen will have a monster game. Thank you for the super chat. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know how if Thielen gets there today with DK Metcalf back against the Houston Texans, then you are going to make yourself quite a fortune. I don't know where it comes from. So you have Calvin Austin back. He missed a game, mostly 2 games, really. You have what is the wide receiver? What does the snap count look like here? Is it just going to be Metcalf? What is it? What does it look like now that with Austin back? Roman Wilson's not going to play, but Thielen, MVS, Calvin Austin, and Metcalf. How does that break down? And does Scotty Miller just not play?
I mean, they could certainly rotate those guys. And if I had to guess, it just becomes like a 1v1 swap of MVS snaps last week for Metcalf snaps. And then probably MVS shaves a few off somewhere else. Last week, MVS played, I know he's over 50 plus. There's too many guys with a MAR name. He was 50 snaps. No, 63 snaps. My bad. 63 snaps for him. Thielen played 50. Like you mentioned, Roman Wilson inactive, has been for like a month, so we don't expect anything from him. Calvin Austin played 37, and then the tight ends, it was 50 for Friermuth and then 33 for Jonnu. So the workload, I think just the MVS snaps mostly go away. Metcalf takes those. Everything else remains the same. I think Thielen will be out there. He probably loses a few to MVS / Scotty Miller or whatever. I don't think the opportunity is the same. And it's not like he was good with Metcalf out and now he's playing one of the toughest defenses. It's a short slate. You only, so many options on the showdown. So pick whoever you want, but I like projection ownership for Thielen. The ownership looks good. The projection looks awful.
What's his receiving yards prop at? Let's see. So here, I'll do this for you guys here. Give you an idea of what we're looking at. Thielen's at 13.5. MVS is at anywhere from 9.5 to 11.5. Calvin Austin's at 12 to 14.5. Is there anyone else that I should be? Does Miller have one? No, there's no way Miller has one. No. Is he even active? And then Metcalf's at 56.5. Friermuth, I think, is around 30. Yeah, 31.5. Jonnu's at 11.5. So can we think about this for a second, Spags? So you have, let's see here. Between Austin, Thielen, MVS, and Jonnu Smith, that's 4 guys with receiving props between 9 and 14 yards today.
Yeah, it seems, I mean, you didn't say the RBs, but collectively between those receivers, we're talking like less than 100 yards combined.
Yeah, I mean, Warren's at 11.5, and when I looked earlier today, Gainwell was at 30.5. So you're still under 100.
Yeah, it's tough. It's not a big cosign. That's part of why I presume, given the fact Stokastic does use that as part of the process to find, what the true market number is. Rodgers at 11.3 projection. You're talking about, and this slate is one of the lowest projected showdowns. Like, I can't remember a single showdown where nobody even came close to 20 fantasy points on it in terms of the projections. Right. But Rodgers at 11 has to be, even on games where we've had bad QBs out on a showdown slate, has to be one of the lowest projected QBs of the year. So there's no love here. I think honestly, if you're playing Rodgers, to me, and the field will do it to a certain extent. It feels like you're just being unique by playing him, because I don't know anybody would based on any number you could look at.
Yeah, Rodgers at captain gets tough though, and we're not getting any of them when I favor 150. You know what I could do within the Sims here? I could do. Let's even just do 2 uniques and see what happens. Would it work with 3 if I just go? Would it work? 19, nah, but we'll go 2. I just want to see if it smooths exposure out enough here. If you end up getting to any Rodgers, Yeah, you still don't get to Rodgers, even with 2 uniques. You get to a little bit of Friermuth. You get to some Dalton Schultz, but really, look how spread out. You mentioned there's no one even close to 20. Usually on these slates, you see 1 or 2 guys kind of get away from everybody else as far as our exposure goes. Gainwell's at 15. Collins is at 13. Metcalf's at 11. Stroud's at 10. Marks is at 9. Schultz is at 9. Steelers D is at 8. Warren's at 7. Kaimi Fairbairn is at 7. So that's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys between 7 and 15% of captain. You're right. This is the oddest showdown slate we've had all year.
Yeah, and it's, I think, one of those where there's going to be a lot of, I would say, duping if things go as expected. Like, I really think that Texans 5-1s, it's never great to when you see an onslaught coming up naturally in projection sets. And for what I ran this morning based off industry projections, I was getting in the optimal lineups, like half of them out of the 25 optimals were coming up as 5-1 Texans builds. So I think really, if you're playing into that, you'll still get some that sim well on Stokastic. And I want to believe that those will be as good of an ROI as we're expecting, because that's the case, and that's usually how that works. But it's going to be harder to get unique. Like, you're going to have to leave salary on the table. I think you have to omit some favorable players. Like, if you're playing Stroud and Nico together with, I would say Gainwell, that kind of situation. Metcalf, like, you're going to be already pretty close to a lot of the field. And then you have like pretty good Texans value as well. So it's easy to get to the 5-1s with like your Cade Stover tier of guys as well. Kicker with Fairbairn projects really well. I think there's going to be a very particular build that people are getting pushed towards today. And if you can get it right, and if you're willing to lose the money, like, some of the sims I ran this morning, it's like you're not winning a lot with the Steelers 5-1. But when you do win, you're probably winning all the money, because there's not going to be any Steelers 5-1s played today.
Here's a Steelers 5-1. Third highest sim ROI. Steelers, Boswell, Metcalf, Warren, Gainwell, Woody, Marks. Whew. You got to have some balls to play those lineups. But like you said, if you do it and it works, you're going to be in business. Steelers, Rodgers, Boswell, Metcalf, Gainwell, Collins. You're going to see a lot of Steelers captain up top here, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be everywhere. It's just a lot of times it'll sim out really well, because when it does finish first, it's nobody's playing these lineups. Like, one dupe here, the other Steelers lineup had, this one actually has 8 and still sims out that well. That's actually really surprising. What is it? Steelers, Rodgers, Boswell, Metcalf, Gainwell, Collins. I would never have expected that to be duped as much as it is. Here's the most duped lineup, Spags. Schultz.
People love these.
Schultz, yeah. Stroud, Kirk, Gainwell, Collins, Woody, Marks. All right. The second is Fairbairn, Stroud, Gainwell, Collins, Friermuth, Marks. And the third is Collins, Stroud, Schultz, Kaimi Fairbairn, Kenneth Gainwell, Steele. Yeah, see, to me, that's a pretty chalky lineup. Now, Nico at captain with Schultz, with Stroud. Yeah, and then your kicker. So it's a 4-2 Steelers D. Yeah, I'm surprised that's honestly not the most duped lineup of the day.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, frankly, all of them, I think, where you have a reasonable captain and 5 legit starters alongside of them, I always tend to think those are going to be pretty duped. But using all the salary, I mean, you could see 3 out of the top 5 here, I guess 3 out of the top 6 using 50K, the other ones using 49.7, 49.9. I mean, based on the top ROI lineups I was getting, I feel like this is a slate where you're leaving 1K on the table, 1,500 on the table. Honestly, I got some of my top ROI lineups out leaving 3,500 on the table. I think it's every showdown slate's a money leaving on the table slate, but this one is like, I think, extra.
How is that positive ROI? Makes the whole system seem like bullshit. It can't be bullshit. You're simming these tens of thousands of times, right? And it just so happened that this specific lineup ended up having a positive simulated ROI. So it would have won money and been profitable across all of those sims runs, which means, Spags, for anyone wondering, it's not always, and it's oftentimes not, the unduped lineups that are only profitable. I mean, a lot of times these heavily duped lineups can be profitable when you're running them across like 60,000 sims. So this isn't even that high of an ROI either, but it's positive because over the course of these Sims runs, it still was profitable where it finished. And it tells you that it probably has, I mean, the cash percentage, is 44%. That has the highest cash percentage of any lineup. Mm-hmm. And it probably has the highest, one of the highest win percentages. Yeah, it has one of the highest win percentages and the second highest top 10. So I think that sums it up.
Yeah, if a lineup wins a lot, but it's duped a lot, it doesn't it means you won't win first place, but it's still probably going to win you money, which is not generally what we're playing for. It's like the people that play playoff best ball and take one player from each team. And you might advance out of the first round, but you're not going to have a team for the Super Bowl. So it doesn't really matter. That's sort of what that lineup is to me, where it's you have no chance of winning first place and it being a meaningful payout for you, but will it probably cash? It's not your actual optimal, but it's, a well simmed kind of cashy kind of lineup.
Yeah, that was actually a genuine question. So I appreciate it. How much is too much to leave on the table? James, I was thinking about that today. I typically don't worry too much about it, but we can look at what some of these lineups are leaving, because I made a few lineups that clearly there was so much on the table that I almost became uncomfortable at one point, but it's not, I mean, really, if you think about it, and I want to get Spags' thoughts on this. I'll scroll while you talk, Spags. With these two defenses, and I know the Steelers defense isn't elite, but they still have a good pass rush. They're not dog shit. They're not total trash, Their run defense has been improved, and they're fine. Texans defense is very good. Their offense is fine, but Nico Collins is not he's not a Puka Nacua or JSM where you're locking in double-digit targets every week. You hope that he would, but sometimes it doesn't happen. Like week 17, Nico Collins was an afterthought. That was the Saturday game, right? Saturday game against the Chargers. Jalen Nolan, Jaden Higgins are doing everything, and you've seen that more times than you'd like this year. So I don't know. I don't look at Nico Collins as you have to have him. Obviously, he's a good play, but I'm not sure there is a single have to have him play on this slate, which leads me essentially to ask you, with that in mind, how much money are you cool with leaving on the table, or do you even think about it?
Yeah, I'm looking at some of my lineups here, and I got ones that leave 4,900 on the table. I think that's the maximum. I have a few that are over 49K, but I think those are more Steelers dominant builds, or at least have some Steelers. Looks like actually one I got in here with 173% ROI, 43.5 salary, which might be the lowest salary. I mean, I think it has to
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's again 173% ROI. I didn't mess with anything, in any real way for this particular lineup, because it doesn't even have any of my boosted guys. It's just because that's going to get you more unique, and it'll win enough here on kind of a dog shit slate. But I don't think I've played a single lineup this year under 45K. So this is kind of new ground for me this year.
Yeah, I just sorted by lowest salary to see if any of these simmed out well. Here's a 61 with 43,000 flat. That's 7K left on the table. A lot of negatives. Here's oh, damn. Okay, here's a 109 with 43-1. That would be in your 150 if you played this set of lineups right now. And, again, look at this. It's not crazy. It's weird that you're running essentially a naked CJ Stroud, with Woody Marks. That's a little bit odd. But double kicker with Fairbairn, Marks, and Metcalf and CJ Stroud, just to give you an idea of what some of these lineups look like. Here's a bunch of negatives. Let's see if I can find another positive. 171. Steelers, Warren, Fairbairn, Gainwell, Collins, and Texans. To me, those Spags, I don't think that's a bad lineup.
No, and I think too, the thing with some of these lineups is you could get to Nico, but at a certain point, everybody's going to go to Nico. So why not go to Woody Marks? Why not go to, I guess, even a Fairbairn and hope he can outscore Nico? I see why it would happen, but I mean, it's 50K lineups. You're going to get, I think, a lot of lineups built. So you'll have some that are cheap, but I really think on the slate, you're getting more that are cheap that are being created in the first place, and more that are cheap that have a high ROI on them. So usually I think people try to get really cute, and it's if you have, I don't know, like Rams, Falcons or something, it's like, oh, you want to jam in Bijan and Puka and all those guys. You don't want to have $43,000 on that slate because you have to pay so much money for your star players that you kind of need to get there. But for this slate, it's like, what are you paying up to get? You're paying up to get Stroud. You're paying up to get Nico, who can fail, even though I do think they're two best players, two best projected guys on the slate as well. But, can they get outscored by the running backs? Can they get outscored by the defense or even the kickers? On this slate, based on the Vegas totals, it seems like there's a decent chance that happens.
Yeah. And just to be clear, I also agree that Collins is one of the two best options on the slate. Mm-hmm. But he's not a sure thing. And I guess what I'm saying, and he is a lot cheaper, but he's not McCaffrey. Like, if Puka were on this slate, on a showdown slate, and the rest of the slate looked like the way it does, right? And you just replaced Collins with Puka Nacua and just assumed that Stroud was going to target Nacua like Stafford did, Nacua would be like 95% owned, dude.
Oh, yeah. He'd be owned. I mean, he was on that much on a 2-game slate over the weekend. So, yeah, I think in a showdown like this, where you have nobody else to go to, nobody else that you trust. Yeah, I agree. Like, he would be, sim-wise, would probably be almost in every lineup play. And then, field ownership, he would be, 90, 95, because people would go like, I could fade him. And then they'd go, oh, never mind.
Yeah, shouldn't have done that. Yeah. Which lineup has the highest win percentage? Here you go. Nico, Stroud, Schultz, Gainwell, Steelers, Texans. Again, you can't be that surprised by defenses popping as much as they are today, just given how low this total is. It's a very low total, really low. So that's your one. And then the second one is Schultz, Stroud, Fairbairn, Gainwell, Collins, and Texans. So, yeah, thanks for the super chat. Another super chat from Mr. Hill, Delaware. Laffy, no worries, bro. Laurie and Howie will strip Sirianni's power. His hands will be off the offense. Yeah, then why is he even there? But you're right. He needs to just be relegated to a figurehead once again. That's what they need to do, like they did last year. But, yeah, we'll see.
What's the stupidest part of the Eagles real fast? Why is Big Dom a coach? Why does he have a headset on? What is enough?
I don't know. I think he's got eyes in the sky.
Just like, he's the most like stereotypical, and I say this as somebody that did grow up, mostly Italian from New York, but it's just like the most like, hey, I gotta be on the camera, I'm Big Dom.
And then he caught a football on the sideline and Schefter's tweeting about it. It's like, all right, dude, cool.
I think he thinks he's a lot more likable than he is, and I think the media does too. And I'm like, I get Big Dom the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I mean, well, no one likes anybody associated with the Eagles anyway, so I don't think that's fair. But, it is what it is, man.
I know that likable AJ Brown. That guy seems.
Oh yeah, like no, he's lovable. Yes, everybody loves him. But yeah, hey, again, to shout out to Ryan. I pulled it up here, Spags. There's your $35,000 win. There's the lineup: Allen, Barkley, Etienne, Washington, Shakir, Demarcus Robinson, man. Hunter Henry, Christian McCaffrey, and Patriots D. Sick lineup, man. That is a sick 204 on a Sunday slate. Unbelievable stuff. Congrats. And you guys already know you want to get the tools, link in the description. Sign up with any of our sportsbook partners and just get the Sims for free. I've said it once, I'll say it again. Just follow those 4 steps on that link. Click the link to any sportsbook, pick'em site, sweepstakes book. Onyx is available in 40 plus states. You spend $10, you get 100 in Onyx cash. Sleepers $5 into $55. So you're already getting out of the gate awesome sign-up offers. And then just take a screenshot of your welcome email, your first settled bet, or pick them lineup. Email us at support@stokastic.com with those screenshots. Ron's the man. He'll get you taken care of real quick. Tell him what you want. PGA's coming up. You got a full month left of the NFL season, essentially. NBA's in full swing. You sign up on 3 of those, you're spending like $20 total, and you're getting 3 months of core for, you could do PGA, NBA, and NFL for like $20. Typically, that'd be what, $450 or something like that out of pocket. No better way to do it. A lot of you guys I know is smart. As the 1 month's about to expire, you just roll $5 or $10 into another book you're not on yet and collect another month. They've been doing it for many months. Some guys a calendar year. So That's the way to do it. Take advantage of the tools, best tools out there. And if you haven't done so, that's the way to do it. Still a lot of time to do so. All right, Spags. Let's get into a question that I have for you about the defenses and about the kickers. And I actually thought this was a great comment and something I think about quite often as well. I'm going to pull this from the chat once I can get around these scumbag bots spamming the channel up.
Oh, I went full screen. I would have gotten them if I had known.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to get this fucker. There we go.
Doug Harrelson. So I'm always underweight on defense and kickers on these low total games because they're way over-owned for these kind of games. I do actually, and he said I like them on slates where they are low-owned. I do at the very least get what he's saying, because a lot of times this year where you and I have talked about it, where you say, we'll do it. All right, Arizona against the Cowboys. Arizona was a road dog with Jacoby Brissett. Nobody wanted those defenses, 50-plus total game. I believe both of those Ds were in the optimal. There was a game more recently as well. I can't remember what it was, but nobody wanted Atlanta's defense. Stafford got picked sixth in that game. And there's just a lot of these instances where nobody wants to do it, and it works. But on a game like this, when everyone sees the total, when everyone sees the implied total for both of these teams and all of the derivatives, they're like, well, I got to go defense and kicker now.
Yeah, and that's the thing we've talked about a lot. I mean, that's been a drum that I think we've debated on the show. We've talked about sometimes when defense pops up and it's one of those 50-point total games. We're like, well, maybe we should boost it down or knock it down a little bit, dock the projection, that stuff. To me, it's really the thing. I think he's dead on. Like, it is sometimes feels like the Dunning-Kruger curve thing where like you feel like you're the same as the idiot person, but it really is it that if everybody's going to play defense and kicker, I think they inherently become a little bit less valuable, and you want to play it, being a little bit more open, and loose. That said, like I talked about, like I really don't think this is a good Rodgers spot, but did I play Rodgers, in 35 or whatever, 40% of my lineups? I did, because I just don't think people are gonna have the guts to be with the field's expected ownership here. And I think this is Stokastic giving you like what the correct ownership is and what it thinks the field should be doing. And I think when we flip the cards, Rodgers might be 25-30. I don't think that'd be a big shocker to me. So, I agree. Like, I think defense and kicker will come up a lot. Certainly you're going to get them in the sims, try to play those strategically, but I think being more open-minded to what if, not even if this game shoots out, but like, what does it look like if there is some success for the Steelers? Like, I just don't think people are going to be thinking that way enough. Besides, I'm going to play Gainwell, I'm going to play Metcalf, and that's about it.
What would be your favorite way to lose money today? And I don't say that disparagingly. I'm serious. Like, you go into these games and there's certain processes where you say, this is probably going to lose me money. But if it works, it's probably going to do really well for me. Although we say that, and then it's like you get Rivers and Alec Pierce right, and still it's not enough to move the needle in a noticeable way. But you get my point. Like, if you were to go into it with the caution to the wind mindset, but also strategically, how would you do it? What would the builds look like?
I mean, I think for me, the way to win, if I were willing to lose all my money in the slate, which I did not play this way today, so full transparency on that, but I think it would just be playing more. I would honestly go all 4-2 Steelers, all 5-1 Steelers, and just hope that I hit. I think you could include 3 threes in those, and you'll probably still be unique enough from that perspective. But I really just don't think the field's going to have either the nuts or the wherewithal to go like, what if Houston doesn't kick like the Pittsburgh Steelers at home? So I think that would be it for me. I would just go like, give me all the 4-2 Steelers, give me all the 5-1 Steelers, give me all Stokastic's best ROIs with that, and let's see what we get. And that'd be a great way to lose money, I think.
Obi-Wan says there's no favorite way to donate. I disagree. I'm far more upset with myself when I hammer the chalk on some of these slates and the chalk busts than when I get different and it doesn't work out, but the process made sense to me. Maybe it's just me, but I hate the feeling of being like, why did I play 50% owned Kenneth Walker? Why did I do it? I knew I shouldn't have. There's so many of those instances this year where there were these guys that like you play them anyway and they were just terrible. I'd rather lose on my, I don't know, on my own terms sometimes, especially in Showdown.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think ultimately, I've said this before, and we talked about Ricky D a couple weeks ago when he had that Twitter thread. I mentioned like there was a period where I was going full contrarian mode, and I just was having some good success in a few slates, but I couldn't sustain it for weeks because if you do play super contrarian in every slate and you don't have the bankroll to withstand that, you're going to hemorrhage money when it doesn't work out in the contrarian way. But like this slate, I think in particular is one of those where it sets up that everything is pointing this way to one particular build: defense, kicker friendly, Houston Texans friendly. And if you just go this way, yeah, you're probably going to lose, going to be bottom 1% of the lineups 7% of the time. But when it hits that 3%, you are going to be so alone if it does pay off. And it's still important to note, like Pittsburgh in this spot, plus 135 to win. Like that's not a crazy money line for them to win.
No,
and yet,
no.
they're going to be a non-factor on a 1-game slate.
Also, the line moved towards Pittsburgh.
It's 3.5, right?
Yeah, 3.5. I saw 4s in a couple spots earlier in the week. So yeah, it's moved. It's not significantly, right? It didn't move through 3, but yeah, I'm not convinced on either side. I said this to, I think it might have been Ben. Or I forget who it was, Spags, that would I be shocked if Pittsburgh just came out and got their dick kicked in? No, I wouldn't. I also wouldn't be surprised if Pittsburgh won. And that's not me just giving you a wishy-washy take here. Like there are certain games where I go, man, I'd be really surprised if they keep this game competitive at all. This is just an odd one where I don't see Houston as just a guarantee to steamroll them. And the line suggests the exact same thing. It's just, it doesn't translate to DFS the way you'd want it to. And like you said, what's the one way to get different? Well, actually there's 2, I think. I actually think there's 2, and we'll talk about this now. The one way is, like you said, kind of overloading the unbalanced stacks towards Pittsburgh. The other one would be probably going towards Texans non-chalk. Guys like Xavier Hutchinson, Jalen Knoll. It's gross. I'm just saying nobody's doing it at all. Like these guys are not getting on. Jaden Higgins is egregiously priced given his role in this offense, but not a lot of people are going to play these guys. Just consider this for a second. If you look at the pool ownership so if you look at there's the pool, but let's say projected ownership, it's pretty much the same thing. You have Stroud, you have Collins and Marks and Schultz and Fairbairn, but he's a kicker, right? How far do you have to go down until you get look, everybody else on Houston is 10%. Oh no, Kirk's 20, which is, again, that's wild. But Higgins 13, Hutchinson 8. Look at all the high owned guys is what I'm saying. There's just none of the value is getting ownership today. And a lot of that is because you don't need to get there. But what if one of these guys in Houston ends up being the guy? I just don't know the right way to do it.
I was shocked to see that Stover played 30 snaps last week because that means there's probably a lot of 12 personnel. I'm sure he subbed in for Schultz and a few. I didn't get that deep on my dive for it, but Stover at $600. That's the kind of guy where if you do have a slate where you need to pay up all the way, and frankly, look, Stokastic Sims obviously do a great job. You've seen people literally winning 30,000 plus with them, within the last 24 hours. So please feel free to always default to what they say. But you do see people maybe getting pushed more towards lower salary builds. So what if you use all the salary, but you spend up and you close it off with the Cade Stover, like something like that? I think that could be a way to play what's almost a more traditional showdown build that we get on every slate that for some reason we're not getting today because the projections don't align that way and there isn't that kind of build isn't necessary. I think it's totally a possible way. And ultimately that's what you're looking for is like, what is to me for showdowns, like the one thing that's been true, I think every time I've done this content is like, what is everybody doing? What's the central assumption? How do I strip away at that central assumption and do something that's kind of similar or, completely different in some cases? But if you want to be close to the cloth, like, yeah, Houston can win, but they can win on the back of Cade Stover catching a touchdown, Christian Kirk catching a touchdown, Noel catching a touchdown, and then Stroud still gets there as mega chalk, but Nico doesn't. Woody Marks can also get there. Maybe you fade the entire Houston pass game because that's also our first instinct is we're going, Stroud plus this instead of Nico. What if it's just Woody Marks is a great day and like Marks and Fairbairn and I keep saying Cade Stover, but like those kind of guys. What if that's just where Houston's points come from today? I think there are ways to still do it. It's ultimately, if you had like a notebook and wrote down your various flow chart of outcomes, that might be a good showdown strategy, like in general, but for today especially.
I pulled up the data here in the data hub specs too. Optimal captain rates. Nico 22, Stroud 16. Excuse me. Metcalf 11, Gainwell 9. See if there's any positively leveraged captains today. Collins, Steelers D, Fairbairn, Schultz, slightly positive. Yeah, I mean, even leverage here, like Steelers, Kaimi Fairbairn, Schultz, those are the guys. Friermuth's positively leveraged. Gainwell at the flex, but at captain, it doesn't really see like anybody stands out all that much. Optimal captain rate I gave you, but then you have optimal flex rate here: Stroud, Gainwell, Collins, Schultz. So just based on the tools, I'm just telling you what the tools are saying right now. These optimal rates are pretty low for these guys. You know, you look down here and my God, like Brooks, Miller, Dario Gumbawale, Hayward, he's going to have a tush-push touchdown. Jalen Noel, Nick Chubb, Adam Thielen, Austin. It's amazing how many bodies there are and how many of them seem largely useless. Like they're all going to see the field, Spags, but there are, no joke, more than a dozen guys down here where you just go, God, if they end up in my lineups, I guess that's okay, but I don't want to play them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And, ultimately though, like that, it's the stupid part of Showdown where like you're 100% right. But I think anybody who looks at that would think the same way. And that's sort of what makes it appealing to go to that range.
Well, hold on. Let me, I don't mean to cut you off, but let me explain what I mean by that. I have a difficult time, even if I want to take that approach, differentiating between many of them. So it's not that I'm opposed to taking that route. It's the whole Ben Rasa process, which or the theory, or I'll just call it an explanation, where he's like, if you go this, right, and you pivot to this, he's like, all right, so then that scenario needs to play out. But then if that scenario plays out, you still have to get the guys right within that scenario. And that's where I find it difficult. Not to be different, because getting different on this slate, just the concept of getting different is really simple. But where you decide to get different, if you're going with these cheap options in Houston or something, or even Pittsburgh, that I think is what makes it so complicated.
Yeah, that's right. Like, Ben has always said it's like making it a parlay, basically, because you need two things to occur instead of the one. So yeah, I think that does make sense. I would say, to me, the snap count, like the most credible case to me that I would make for the dumpster dive guys would be Cade Stover played 30 snaps last week. To me, that stands out. $600, pretty good projection on him too. Like we don't really have a lot of $600 guys that projecting for like 3 fantasy points on these slates. And that's the case today for Stover. So I just think he's a little bit under-owned. I mean, the optimal rate's not great, but 6% ownership, 6% optimal rate. I think you can get more there, and he can maybe be the guy that gets unique. Jalen Noel, he has a worse projection than Stover, but I do think he's fast enough. They could maybe scheme some stuff for him. Nick Chubb, 3K. He's direct leverage on Woody Marks. If Marks gets hurt for the umpteenth time, leaves the game, goes in the tent, Chubb is your guy. And Hayward, like you mentioned, tush push. Like I think those 4 would be the ways that like I could see a cheap guy hitting. But yeah, the rest of them, it's all a dice roll anyway with all of them. But I think those guys have a credible argument you can make.
I just need the best ROI lineup, single entry, $100. Frankie, I don't know. I went to the data hub and it cleared the Sims. He's saying I 100 entry on DK, 500 entries. Like the best ROI lineup though isn't going to have a lot of dupes. I would have to run it. Let's see if I can do it for you real quick. It's going to be tough though, man. I don't think we'll have the time. We'll go 500, and then actually this might actually work. We'll go medium high stakes. It's not. We're not going to be able to get there.
I would go with this one. I'd go with the Pittsburgh 5-1. I'd go Metcalf. This is the 3rd highest ROI lineup. 47.9 salary. Metcalf, Rodgers, Boswell, Schultz, Gainwell, Steelers. So lose your money on that one, but it's got the top 3 ROI. It'll be entirely unknown in a single entry because there's not going to be any Pittsburgh 5-1s in a single entry. I would do that.
All right, here you go. Here's your highest ROI. Gainwell, Rodgers, Boswell, Metcalf, Steelers, Marks. Gainwell, Rodgers, Boswell, Metcalf, Steelers, Marks. If you can
another
get
5-1, see? Pittsburgh 5-1s.
Oh, you were right. Good call, dude. Gainwell, Rodgers, Boswell, Metcalf, Steelers, Marks. Sorry, Frankie. I hope that worked. That we did our best. We did our best. Appreciate you guys. Notorious, what's up, Nick? Good to see you, man. Happy to have all of you guys with us for the final show, Showdown show, of course.
Well, not the Super Bowl, too. People pointed out that you forget. You'll do a Showdown Super Bowl show at some point, but for now, this is the last one.
I hate that show.
You love that. You love every content you do.
What?
You love every piece of content you do.
No, I hate that show. You'd never know it, but I hate that show. I do not like Super Bowl showdowns. I don't know why. They drive me insane. But I don't like betting on the Super Bowl. That's the thing, dude. Like everybody, I'll bet it. Obviously, I'm going to bet the Super Bowl, but it's the worst event you could bet.
Oh, yeah, because the lines are so efficient and they have a whole week to catch up on sharp action and all that. Yeah. But,
yeah,
for a showdown.
More than a week.
Yeah. Well, 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks. You're right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But we'll be here. So I guess you guys are right. You're right. Thanks, guys. Follow Spags. Go check them out. Splash Play Pod. This fucking asshole makes their name. You can't say it.
I wish it were at Splash Play, but somebody has it, and you can't. It's not like Twitter. You can get it from that person. I know. At
Splash Play Pod on YouTube, and all of our stuff right here. Ben and I will be back with you tomorrow. First look strategy show for the divisional round. Bye bye.